Hello guys, have another tips video today, and today we'll be sort of going through sniping, a sniper's guide to Battlefield 6, or how to improve your sniping. I think in Battlefield there's nothing more satisfying than getting that sniper headshot, in my sort of personal opinion, so sort of hopefully help a few players out, get some more headshots. This will be good for multiplayer, sort of RedSec as well. I think a lot of this sort of carry over to RedSec, sort of going through the best weapons, best attachments, class benefits that sort of have like weapon proficiency that sort of really help with sniping. And to be aware of actually as well, and then just go into like sort of general tips to sort of improve your sniping. I think will sort of help out a lot of players. So yeah, let's get straight into it. So I think the first thing I'm going to talk about is the sort of class benefits that you get with the Recon class, and they're very effective. Now you can technically, sort of snipe with other classes like Assault, Engineer, the Support class, but the Recon has some, like a weapon proficiency that can really sort of help, and I'd recommend if you are sniping, just snipe with the Recon class, and it's going to right now. So with the Recon class, you do have a sniper rifle proficiency, so it's improved marksmanship skills, so including, this is quite key, reduced weapon sway, quicker rechambering between shots, and better breath control through steadier aim. Now this is really effective. And it's something I notice when I snipe on, particularly in RedSec, when I snipe with like an engineer, like I can definitely tell, it's very definitely noticeable, like the weapon sway on other classes when you're not using the Recon class, and particularly at range. If I'm sort of sniping on breakthrough, say like Blackwell Fields or something, like the weapon sway at very long range, it can be a bit obnoxious, which you don't really get that with the Recon class, and it's something to be aware of, as well as the quicker rechambering of shots. It's just better. So essentially you're just more accurate with the Recon class when you're sniping, and that weapon sway, that reduced weapon sway, is very, very effective. I'd say if you can use that. And another thing with the Recon class is you get this passive spotting. So when you're playing in your ADS, your enemies will be sort of automatically spotted. It's quite powerful, honestly. It would just make people easier to see, like sort of particularly good with sort of acquiring targets, and just being able to see better with like the little diamond above their head. And it goes a bit further as well. And like I said, this it's exclusive to the Recon class. You don't get this in the Engineer and the Support, stuff like that, but you actually get the different levels of sort of improved aspects with that. So if you look at it, it says passive spotting, it says enhanced perception at level 0, so as soon as you spawn into a game you get improved auto spotting range, 33% increased distance from the weapon Corsair, spotting is quicker, you just get better spotting abilities when you just run Recon as a baseline. As you sort of play in the game, you get sort of like higher in the levels. You got 1, 2, 3, and even level 1 is target acquired, so inflicting damage on enemies spots them as well, so marking their position in world and on the minimap, so all your teammates can see that, squad mates as well, they can all see that when you, so it's very very effective, the Recon class. So even if you go for the headshot, you miss, you get a body shot, but you're helping your teammates like immediately, even if you maybe don't even get the kill. And then as we go to level 2, confirmed kill. So if you headshot someone, we'll talk about the sort of going with headshots later on in the video, but if you headshot someone with a sniper rifle, they cannot be revived, so they're out, they go straight back to spawn, and they come back in. That's very effective as well. And then sort of UAV usually sort of towards the end of the game, you sort of pick this up and you can just get a UAV comes in and spots all. It's kind of good, the Recon class, really. If you really want to be a sniper, like you've got to use the Recon class. It's just so many great abilities that just make it too good. So sometimes it's a bit too good, particularly with the spotting. It's a bit, it maybe needs a bit of a balance, but So I think we're going to what's the best weapon to use? What is the best snipers to use in Battlefield 6? Now, in my sort of personal opinion, I actually think it's a default weapon. The first sniper you get, the ESR M2010, I actually think it's probably the best sniper. I do think the other snipers do have they're quite fun to use, but I think just the ESR is is one of the best, if not the best, from my experience. And the Mini Scout, I'd say the Mini Scout's a bit faster. You can sort of get sort of rechamber quite quick with the Mini Scouts. You can get like follow up shots a lot quicker that you can't really do with the ESR. But I think for just use the default weapon, the ESR is great in red set, great in multiplayer. And then once you sort of get good with the sniping, sort of just I would always recommend try every sniper. Do you know what I mean? PSR is quite sort of long range sniper. SV98 is a bit more sort of closer range sniper, I think. The L115 is sort of a bit of both maybe, sort of SV and sort of PSR, a bit sort of in between each, and then the Mini Scout is a bit sort of unique in the sense that it's quite sort of got a good rate of fire. You can just sort of get off another shot quite quickly. So what are the sort of best attachments to use on these snipers to make them? Going to the first one, so you've got the suppressor, just the cheapest suppressor you can get. That'd be perfectly fine. I've got the extended, so 26-inch carbon. So what this does is increases projectile velocity. So if I could just unequip it, say you see here 800 meters a second, put the carbon on, it says 1000 meters a second, as well as enables a fast transition to ADS time. So you get faster ADS speed, which is great as a sniper. It's great. Now on this build, I have the slim angled, so this increases weapon draw speed, enables a slightly faster transition to ADS speed as well. So you've got draw speed and fast ADS speed. It's great. You can either sort of like put the low profile stubby on if you want, which just enables the faster transition to ADS. So just fast ADS speed. Then you don't get the weapon draw speed. Do you know what I mean? So you can use the stubby. The stubby's pretty good if you want to save if you want to save some points. 5 round, I just have the standard sort of 5 round. Now with the ammunition, you can run match grade. So essentially what this does is it's for long range, standard sort of penetration, but reduces the projectile drag. So when you couple this with the extended barrel, 26-inch carbon, and the long range with lower projectile drag that goes muzzle velocity of 1000 meters a second, can pretty much just aim for headshots essentially. If you sort of play on breakthrough, you can just aim at the head. If it's a bit further range, you can just aim slightly above the head, and you're good to go. When you have weapons like 1000 meters a second, it's very fast, very effective. And on this build, I have the sort of anti-glare. So what this does is reduces a visible cone glint, anti-reflects to that sort of in the sniper class. When you are sniping, you get that sort of that scope glint. That sort of reduces it by a tiny amount. It's only 10 points, so you might as well. For the scope, I always like this one, the NFX scope. This one here. It is an 8x scope. I think it's just personal preference, really. What other's a good one? I think whatever works for you, really. The SSDS are 6x. That's quite clean. That's quite a clean one. Obviously, it's a 6x. You don't get as much. You don't get as much zoom, obviously. But I quite like this one, the NFX 8X, where it's got the A7 on the side. It's easily identifiable. It's a good scope. That's my sort of go-to, the multiplayer and red sec. And finally, it's a violet laser. So this was sort of recently added to the game, quite recently, and it basically just improves ADS accuracy while moving. And it's not visible to enemy soldiers, and you have to have this on to do it. So you pretty much get no cons, essentially. You just get better ADS accuracy while moving, which is great. So, right, so now we've sort of gone through the best snipers, and then, sort of what the best attachments typically you would use. And now it's time to, get into the sniping. Let's talk about tips for sniping, how to snipe. And I think first off, I'm just going to start off with, there's sort of like 2 styles of sort of sniping in Battlefield 6, I would say, from my experience. And the first one is like this, where you just ADS ADSing in, ADSing out, you're always on the move. Like that. Just going for headshots, bit of crouch bounce in. But essentially what it is just you're always ADSing in and you're ADSing out, acquiring targets. I think that's exactly why this is good. I think it's probably the most effective way of sniping in Battlefield. It's very good for just raw aim, practicing your sniping, just going for the headshots. And a lot of time, this is what you'll be doing, I think, for a lot of time. I think that's style number one. The second style I would say you sort of staying in ADS. So you just stay in ADS and you just, you know, just continue with follow-up shots constantly. So you aim for the head, boom, if you miss, you get a body shot, you get a body shot. I'd say it's quite effective sort of in red sec. Maybe not so much multiplayer where you're dealing with maybe a lot more snipers that are shooting at you. You can't really afford to be sort of standing still, do you know what I mean? So like staying in ADS, it can be a bit risky because, you know, you do have the sort of lens flare. If you're in that sweet spot sniper sort of range, you can sort of, you know, you're very noticeable and people will spot you. So it's very risky. I'd say maybe this second playstyle where you stay ADS'd in, it's probably more for red sec. I mean, you do have still a bit of a movement, do you know what I mean? You can sort of crouch bounce and, you know, you sort of still ADS a bit. I was doing that, which is still, you know, very effective. But you are quite vulnerable, I would say, when you do stay in ADS. Like I said, this you would really need to, just to quickly mention, you would need the ADS bolt. ADS bolt, so what this essentially does is enables rechambering while aiming down sight, so you can just rechamber shots. And I'd say typically you can sort of mix the two, do you know what I mean? So you can do a bit of the first one, you just ADS in, ADS out, good at acquiring targets, and then sometimes just stay in ADS and just boom, boom, just go for headshots. I'd say that's the sort of two styles. And maybe the first style, just, you know, just practicing your aim, acquiring targets is probably the better way to go, I would say, sort of sniping wise. Yeah, my sort of personal opinion, but I think, you know, as you've noticed from these clips, I would always say, you know, going for headshots. I would always go for headshots, even though there is a sort of sweet spot and mechanic in this game. I'd still just always go for headshots because it's always consistent, you know, universal at any range. That sort of one shot headshot. If you miss that headshot, you know, you'll get a body shot. Sometimes if you are in that sweet spot range, you know, you'll get a kill, or, you know, if not, you can just hit them up with a follow-up body shot. Sometimes it's hard to know whether you are in that sort of sweet spot range or not, which is why I don't really think it's good to go for the sweet spot. And I think it's just good, just great to get a headshot. It's just universal at any range. So, you know, it's good practice. It's one of the best things about sniping in Battlefield. It's just going for the headshots, getting that sort of crunchy sound when you do get a headshot. I think you'll always be a better player as well if you're able to one-shot headshot people. You know, you're always going to be better than the players who just go for sweet spots, because your aiming, your accuracy is going to be a lot better than them. And another tip I would say is to never re-peek the same angle, and I always try to sort of reposition after taking a shot or two. Usually, maybe after taking one shot, after two, like, you've got to reposition, do you know what I mean, and sort of reappear up from a different angle, get a new angle on them. And a lot of players don't do this, you know. You see it on Breakthrough a lot, unfortunately, is people just, they sit behind a rock or they sit behind a crate or something, and they just keep re-peeking the same angle over and over and over and over again, and it's so predictable. It's so predictable, and that's why you don't want to do it. You want to be unpredictable, and that's why you don't repeat the same angle. You take a shot, maybe take another shot, and then you reposition and come up from a different angle. You'll catch snipers out constantly with that. It's very effective, and I would say that's one big tip really to sort of be an effective sniper, I would say. Right, so before I go, I think I just want to talk about centering. So essentially what it is, you know, look at a crosshair, and it's just being on target. Being on target before you shoot. And I'd say this is a very good, very effective way. Even just normal sort of in sniping particularly, but just as you know, I've talked about this in sort of previous videos in Battlefield 5, etc. Good centering, you'll win a lot more gunfights. You know, sort of in close range again, like SMGs, assault rifles, etc. But even you know, in sniping, it's really effective. and essentially you just want to have your crosshair on the person you're going to snipe, like here in the test range, just on this dude here, just with your crosshair on the body, aim in, headshot, after headshot, after headshot. So you don't have to aim really, you just aim in. You just aim in, sort of minor adjustments. It's very effective, and I think it's a great habit to have, great habit to learn and get into. So before you snipe, make sure your crosshair is on where you want to go, as close as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect, you know what I mean? Just sort of the throat level or the upper body level. You just ADS in, boom, headshot after headshot, you'll be good to go. And I think that's what I want to talk about. Has been, the best weapons, best attachments, sort of general tips I think will help a lot of players out when they are sniping. Let me know if this has helped you out a lot. Be very sort of interested to hear your thoughts. Subscribe if you haven't already. Be very much appreciated. Sort of continues to grow the channel in Battlefield 6. Yeah, and thanks for watching. And I'll see you boys in the next one.